BRUCAST is back, baby.
This BRUCAST episode is brought to you by the BRUCAST Store. Explore a store filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BRUCAST. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Visit now brew-cast.com/store. Link below.
Back with the fire, can't you see the flames? From Deutschland steps comes the BRUCAST name. Voices like thunder breaking all the chains. Unleash the fury like a runaway train.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another BRUCAST episode. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast recommends to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. BRUCAST also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where I upload shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now, BRUCAST on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Links in the description below. Hey there, BRUCAST fans, you know what's up, I know what's up. It's time to talk about this giveaway, the past giveaway. Actually, let's talk about the past giveaway. Yes, we just did one giveaway. Go check it out if you are the winner. The video is right now online on the live tabs of our channel. All you have to do is go there, check it out. We're giving away one of the BRUCAST exclusive merch that we have in our stores. It's called the Eco Bag, BRUCAST Eco Bag. And again, one of you won it. And go check it out. The video is already live. And let's talk about the next giveaway. If you want to participate in our next giveaway, which is gonna happens at the end of next month, again, all you have to do is like, subscribe, and comment. If you do all of those things, you're gonna be automatically running to win the next giveaway. We're gonna be giving away again something from the BRUCAST store. Yes, if you haven't checked yet, go check the BRUCAST store. Again, subscribe, like, and comment. You might win something from there. So that's about the giveaway. Oh, and the second announcement is we finally hit 10K subscribers. Yes, I think that's the first podcast that we do, or second podcast that we do, since we hit 10K on YouTube. So thank you so much, everyone, for subscribing. It's working. We're growing, and keep coming back. If you haven't checked out, go check out BRUCAST on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We also have our shows there. So our shows is the only show. We also do brew plays. But anyway, subscribe. Our guest today is Tim O'Hearn. Tim O'Hearn is a former software engineer and viral growth hacker who authored Frame, A Villain's Perspective on Social Media, a #1 bestseller exposing the dark mechanics behind influencer culture and algorithm addiction. With a background in quant finance and bot building, Tim shares an insider's take on how social media really works and why so much of it's fake. All right, Tim, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Brew. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for being here. It's a pleasure. Man, what an interesting theme. So the dark side of social media, why you got so interested on it?
For me, I spent my early 20s making large amounts of profit from the dark side of social media. I did it at a time before there was broad familiarity with it. And I think on the backside of it, I was motivated to write this book.
Okay. And what was it, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or everything?
It was primarily Instagram.
Oh, okay. Why would you say is that?
During that period of time, before Instagram even had 1 billion users, there was a lot of interest in digital metrics there. So if you remember when everybody moved to Facebook, maybe from MySpace, Facebook whitewashed a lot of these things. And on Facebook, it made it so that your friend count wasn't that prominent or it wasn't that important. Whereas on MySpace, it had been. What we found when Instagram became popular was that everyone rushed to get as many followers as possible. And when I was involved with Shark Social, which is the code name I gave to the business I was involved with, we found that there were thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of customers interested in getting more followers.
I mean, it's a social thing, right? So it's status, I would say. The more followers we have, the more it represents that people like you and follow you, are interested in you. So automatically, I think you just have a sense that you're more important. Have you seen this? It's an app. It's a fake app that people download, and it looks like you're live on Instagram, and you have a bunch of people watching your live. And this guy, the guy who created this fake app, is like he's rich for sure because uh, I mean, he's selling it. But the point is, if you have one of those apps and you pretend that you have like 10K people watching your live, you just like the user case, like you go into like a VIP section, say, "Hi guys, I'm famous. Look, I'm on Instagram," and they just let you in, and it's like social status. It's like fake social status.
Yeah, this clout, this digital cloud provides a lot in terms of social proof and even in terms of how people perceive you in the real world as well. So when we got into the business, we were not getting people fake followers. We were hopefully getting them organic followers, but we were doing so in a way that was against the rules because we were automating all aspects of social interaction.
Whoa. Okay, so you're admitting some crime here. What's happening? Don't do that.
There's definitely a gray area here where we've seen terms like black hat marketing emerge.
Oh.
And I would say that this was a primary example of what we would call black hat marketing. So, at face value, not illegal activity, but activity that certainly violated the terms of use of the platform. And so there's this difference of saying, okay, we're not breaking the law, but we are breaking the rules, and we are likely creating a nuisance for other users on the platform.
What exactly did you guys did?
So the program I built was called Mako, and none of the customers knew this because the customers didn't necessarily know that we were running a bot on their accounts. If you signed up for our service at Shark Social, you would provide your username and password, and then you would provide a list of targeted accounts, meaning accounts similar to yours or accounts whose audiences you wanted to try to conjoin with your own audience. My program Mako would log into your Instagram account because I had your credentials, and it would then begin liking, commenting on posts by, and following accounts that were in this targeted group. So essentially, we would take 200, 300, maybe even 400 actions per day with the idea that some of those actions would be returned to us. The general rule of thumb was that the actions would be returned at a rate of about 10%.
Wow. Okay, so let me see if I got this straight. Someone would pay you to do that, and then you would log in their account and would automate liking and performing several other actions on that person account, and about 10% of all of those actions would have some type of return. Other people would engage back, would like back, would subscribe back. So is that correct? Is that the case?
That's exactly right.
Oh, okay. I mean, is that a gray area? Because basically, from what I understand, you're doing what the person would do already by themselves. You're just kind of speeding up the process, right? Especially if you're making sure to like and follow people that this person already kind of is like the same genres and interests that this person has.
Yeah, that's true. In that the outsider's perspective would have been that it was indistinguishable from human actions. And that was kind of the point. At scale, as we had thousands of customers eventually, if we were taking 200 or 300 actions per customer per day, you could probably see how that begins to be an issue. Because it's not just one account, it's thousands. And then you start talking in terms of maybe over 1 million actions per week. That then becomes an issue for the platform. And even back then, one of Instagram's terms did forbid this like automated programmatic access. So even though we were able to do it, even back then it was against the rules.
Okay, and you knew that at the time.
We knew that, but I think everyone just wanted the gravy train to like keep going. So for us, we weren't we had to understand the rules to obviously to break them, but we kind of remained in this this like self-imposed ignorant state.
You made some money, right? So for a while it was worth it. So I see that you have a more negative view nowadays, right? Like during your intro, I read like it's a dark side of social media and why so much of it's fake. So why? So from someone who used to profit from it, so what made you believe it's so evil now?
Even while I was doing it, I think there was some momentum behind this idea that social media was a net negative for society.
Oh,
It had really maybe outlived its usefulness as this way to connect socially, and it became a vector of entertainment. And this was really new in the mid 2010s, where we were only a few years into Facebook having a successful mobile app that people actually wanted to use. The reason people wanted to use the app was not necessarily to send each other messages and, click, 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 find their pictures. It was because they wanted this entertainment, which was in the way of a news feed. So at that point, we could probably say that, yeah, it was becoming more of an entertainment thing. It was sapping our attention spans. But while I was involved with running Shark Social, we found that people were compromising a lot, even to get more followers. Like we had customers whose cards were declined because they ran out of money. And we were probably the cheapest service at that time. So you'd have to think these people probably had better things that they could have been doing with their money, and at some point, you'd say that there is a societal cost if someone spends money on social media clout when they should be feeding themselves, for example.
oh yeah, that sounds a little bit
In the
unhealthy.
extreme.
An
Yeah.
extreme.
Right.
Sorry, son, I can't buy you milk this month. I need to get 1,000 followers for daddy.
Uh,
Yeah, it sounds a little bit sick, but I mean, we're talking about the extremes, right? How many? What percentage of the Instagram's users would you say are obsessed on followers and that kind of thing? Like, I would say 10, maybe. Like, I'm completely blind. I don't know. Don't have any studies. I never looked into that, but I would say 5%. That's a wild guess from me. What do you have to say about that?
I would say it's a lot higher. And during
What?
our era, well, now I think people are more attuned to that. It's very easy to manipulate follower count. So even though you or I, like, we still look at, hey, his YouTube channel, right, has like 10,000 subscribers or something like that, we still give value to these. But the people who are involved in these more obsessive usage patterns, I would say is much, much higher, even towards 50% during the golden age. So during 2018, 2019, 2020, I don't think it would be far fetched to say almost half of the platform was a potential customer for me at Shark Social.
Whoa. Whoa, that's insane. Almost half of the user base. I never imagined that. Whoa. Tim, so you were on the other side of things, right? You're selling that servers, but uh, for you personally, would you say you're also trying to get as many followers as you could? You were also part of this 50%?
This is a really unique part of the narrative of the book because I talk about growing up with the internet and playing video games and then being so obsessed with the high score on a
Yeah.
video game that I began cheating at games. The reason I started studying computer science was because I wanted to cheat at games better. And at that time in 2011, there was starting to be this news kind of making it out that, hey, if you can design a bot for the game RuneScape or like one of these, early MMORPG games, you can actually make a lot of money. And that was
Yeah.
true. That wasn't like a myth. That was true. That's why I started studying computer science. So now to look at it in the sense of, okay, I'm on social media, I go away to college, I'm studying computer science. I have to admit that, of course, I was just obsessed with these metrics as much as I was these high scores in video games. And that went on for years and years and years. And even the people who I was involved with Shark Social, they were doing the same things to grow their followers. Like they were the greatest customers. they were the ones chasing 100,000 followers, and they got
Wow.
there also. So yeah, I think it's fair to say that I had a little bit of this obsession, and I definitely make these little jabs, these little references throughout the book of saying, even though I know all of this, it would be pretty easy to just spend $20 and get some more fake followers. That's, and again, there's a difference between fake and what we did, but the notion is that, yeah, I do place a lot of value in follower count.
A buddy of mine used to do it all the time, and he stopped doing it after a while. It was during the golden age. Now that you mentioned 2018, 2019, it was around that era. He used to do it a lot, and he once he stopped doing it. I asked, "Hey, what's up? Why you don't do it anymore?" I was like, "Was so good for you, right?" I said, "No, no, no, Bruno. Listen, it's not worth it on the long term. That those are his words, right? On the long term, it's not worth it because over time, all of those bot accounts they end up being deleted and they just go down and you just lose all of them. Like doesn't happen overnight, but maybe 6 months from now, 1 year from now, and over time in long term, just lose them all. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, that's definitely accurate. And I've addressed this in the book from a few different angles, but really the point is that we went from this ability to buy these botnet followers, and then we realized that they would disappear. And that was a huge problem. So a lot of companies found, like larger businesses, found themselves in this just awful cycle of buying fake followers. Then you'd have to see how many disappeared. Then you'd have to buy more to make up for the followers that disappeared. And you kind of get into this cycle of just having to spend hundreds, if not thousands per month just to maintain the status quo. So yeah, definitely the fake follower stuff, beyond an initial boost, it's not sustainable whatsoever. But it's unfortunate that it does affect our perception of seeing an account for the first time.
So would you still say it's valuable, it's interesting for someone who's starting out just to have this initial boost?
It's really difficult for me to admit to it, but it does come up a lot, even on podcasts and even in the book. I say, when I started branching out beyond that business, pretty much every business I was involved with, there was some opportunity for me to fake it. And in every case, if I faked it, I probably would have seen slightly better conversions. A good example is modern day. I wrote a book and I was so sure when I published my book, I would not break the rules in any way. It's really, really difficult to, maintain steadfast in that stance when my book launched around other books where I am 100% sure they purchased fake reviews. And
Ooh.
that's a huge problem now. And I'm sure you see it in the podcast space as well, where some of your peers might have some suspicious looking reviews. And on Amazon, it's a huge, huge difference. So yeah, I have to admit that if I bought fake reviews, I probably would have done another 100 or 200 sales today, at least, just going by conversion percentages. And that's really tough for me to admit.
Phew, man. Whew. You make me think about you remembered me of this quote like fake it until you make it, but if you just make fake it, there's no no substance, there's no quality or content. It doesn't matter how much you fake it. I guess it you just won't make it. You need to put some work as well, right? That's my perception of it.
I would say that it's all about the craft.
Yeah.
I make that point in the book. I have a chapter called Getting Good. People would come to us for advice. They're like, hey, I got the followers, I got this. And I'm like, well, that's nice. You got the followers. But if you're a musician, is your music any good? And sometimes I had the time, right? So sometimes like it's not about reducing it to a framework that I'm trying to sell to people. I was selling people organic growth and exposure. So when they came to me with the problems, I wouldn't just try to say, oh, okay, no, it's going to work out. Sometimes I would look at their Instagram accounts and I would talk about it with the guys. And I would say, geez, like, I'm surprised they even got this many followers to begin with because they're terrible at painting or they're terrible at playing the violin. Like, it's just very, very obvious to go and look at these people and say, there's no connection between your follower count and this business or persona that you're building. That's like the really tough part is that some talent is just not it's not at a sufficient level to be globalized on social media.
Yeah, but I would say it's just part of being human, right? Like the desire of being accepted, the desire of be seen and be famous. It's just human. It's like I think we all go through certain periods of our lives that we wish I think everyone wish that more. I would say more some people more than others, but at the end of the day, yeah, I totally agree with you. You need to go back to the craft. Like, doesn't matter how many followers you have at the end of the day if your music shit, like you're just gonna crash and burn eventually, right? Like I'm not giving any names here, but I have a very good example in mind. I'm gonna tell you after the podcast is over. Don't want to throw anyone under the bus. That's not what we're here for. But yeah, man. But the thing is, even when people try to be original nowadays, I think besides Mr. Beast, because Mr. Beast is like out of the curve. He went, this guy he exploded. He is very good at what he does. But besides Mr. Beast, like I go on Instagram and so many of those teenagers who are quote unquote trying to make it, they're all doing the same stuff. They're like all on Walmart just teasing old people. Now have you seen this new trend with the fake Apple Pay thing? They pretend. Oh, what do you have to say about it? Would you consider that like effort?
Yeah, this is something that's coming up more, especially as I'm getting a little bit older and I can't relate to kids as much today. But earlier this week, or I should say late last week, I was on Mike Sirius's podcast, and what he said was, to him, a lot of these people are clowns. He sees them as
Oh,
clowns, as like these just baseline entertainers that are providing no value. And what I said to him, or this hypothesis that I've been pushing, is that these people are created by the algorithm because they see what they think is successful, or they see a way to make prank or stunt videos that kind of gets exposure or attention. And then they start doing the same thing. And eventually we just get so far away from what I remember from the early internet, as far as like what made for a funny video, that, yeah, you get a lot of these like very, very lowbrow, low effort, and sometimes I think highly like inappropriate new grade of influencers. So it's important. It's unfortunate, and it's taken us so far away from what it means to actually have talent versus like shock value or something.
yeah, you said it. Yeah, they're clowns, man. And the thing is, they're not even funny. Some of them are, but a lot of the things that I see are just, as you mentioned, shock value. They're just there trying to get a reaction out of people, and they think that's content. No, man, you're just being an asshole. Like like there's this guy, I won't remember his name, but I discovered him yesterday. Like his whole deal is just going on Walmart and like pushing people and start pretending that they're gonna fight, and like with old people, man. Old, it's like, oh, man, get out of here. Like they're clowns. I don't even think some of them are clowns. They're just like assholes. And
Yeah.
but the thing is, there's so much people who watch those videos. It creates so much engagement. I don't know what's up with that. There's people who like it.
Yeah, it's hard to really like peg like why or where this happened, because even when I was a kid, we did have this concept where it was called Punked, and it was this famous show on
Oh,
MTV
yeah.
where they would set up these very elaborate pranks
With Ashton
for
Kutcher, yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
for celebrities. So it's not like prank videos are new or that stunt videos are new. And I address this in my book where I talk about, Jackass, where like the original like 21st century pranksters, stunt people. But I talk about how this has really debased a lot of the creative process. And now we have this like very iterative content where it's, as long as you can put your face in front of the camera, you've got something. But really it's just like one person copying the other, copying the next, trying to take things to new extremes, which is not only dangerous, but it's like not real content. That's the issue.
Yeah. Oh. when you say not real content, I would say yeah, especially for AI nowadays. Dude, I'm guilty. Yesterday I shared this support kangaroo that couldn't get in the airplane. I'm not sure if you saw this video. I was like, oh, that's so funny. They're trying to get a baby kangaroo into the airplane. I shared like, ha ha ha, I'm so everyone will like it. Like, in my mind, it was like the funniest thing ever. And then 2 days later, the kangaroo in the airplane, fake AI. Like
Wow.
I work with this stuff, right? Besides my podcast, I develop games and I work a lot with AI. Why not? And I got fooled. It's not even real content anymore.
hmm Yeah, a lot of the AI stuff, it creates an entirely additional layer of content that it fools you or it draws you in, and then it turns out that it's just, I mean, AI is iterative. That's the nature of how it's constructed. So it's almost like, what's the difference? That's the scary part. If you could just like reskin things and have a slightly different plot to the video, if that entertains people, then how much longer will humans really be creating content for?
Hmm. Do you have a guess?
I think it's really scary, but mainly if people like you and I are getting fooled, that's a problem. But the much larger problem is for younger people who never have to develop this kind of mode where you're like, wait, is that real? Do I think that's real? Right? They're not calibrated at all. I think I'm probably subscribing to the belief that we're completely done as a society, probably by the year 2040.
Why is that? Because of AI?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it would be advancements in AI that essentially bring the world to this brink of um, just like this fully automated, almost like singularity type thing. I know this sounds conspiratorial, but I admit that my book is filled with conspiratorial diatribes. But yeah, and look, it's advanced since I published the book. Like I think it might be called like AI 2037. Like it might be the working theory right now. That was published after I wrote my book, and I read it. It's like a 15-minute read, and it gives a very plausible scenario for how AI may shape like the geopolitics of the coming decades. So yeah, it creates some problems. We have the dead internet theory, and we have other things that factor into it. I think we definitely have like a solid decade ahead of us, but then things are going to start getting really, really weird.
Whoa. Whoa, man. I cannot even fathom how it will look. Who wrote this AI 2037?
I don't remember.
No? Okay, let's check it out.
You should, yeah, definitely check it out.
So, AI 2037. That's when the world end, folks. Um, we will have human. Let's share the screen real quick. Ex Google offers warns about AI will become billion times smarter in 2037. Well, there's a bunch of stuff. Oh, there's this one, AI 2027. That's not the one, right?
No, maybe it was 2027. Maybe I'm off by 10 years.
What? God, no.
No, it definitely ended in a 7.
So Daniel Kokatai, Scott Alexander, Thomas Larson, Ellie Liefland, Romeo Dean. We predict that the impact of superhuman AI over the next decade will be enormous, exceeding that of the Industrial Revolution. We wrote a scenario that represents our best guess about what that might look like. It is informed by trend explorations, war games, expert feedback, experience at OpenAI, and previous forecasting success. Whoa! Experience at OpenAI? Did they work there? They left there and they're alive? Wasn't there like a whistleblower who got quote unquote unalived? Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely the paper I would recommend giving. It's a very long read, but I found it to be fascinating as much as it was scary.
Wow, I'm gonna definitely read that, guys. So for those just listening, is a website called AI-2027.com. Creepy stuff, dude. Creepy stuff. So, if you had to summarize here for the listeners, what the scenario look like?
It really is an extrapolation of what we've seen so far, which is essentially the United States and China,
Oh,
kind of going at it from the perspective of who has the most processing power and turning this processing power into like actionable scientific advancement. And the idea is that as AI becomes more and more advanced, it will completely outstrip uh, our ability as humans to even like generate new ideas. So it talks about how it at first it will be amazing because we'll have all these advancements in things like clean energy, which you'd say we're maybe pretty close to certain aspects of like nuclear power and stuff, but we're not quite there. Things such as like material science, basically everything we need to kind of get to what we imagine the future really consists of. But eventually, uh, there's this risk that maybe AI could start plotting against us, or that then AI dominance also means world dominance from the perspective of weapon systems. And that's where it gets like really, really dark. And I think it's such a good read. It's unbelievable.
wow. Isn't that like the Terminator plot, the movie Terminator?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like things are borrowed, like science fiction writers, especially like more future based ones. Like that's really what we've been talking about. And this is probably the most, like I would say, like clear, realization of that so far. So yeah, it's a good read. And I guess as the years go by, we'll be able to say what we did and did not do right.
Hmm. I think Sam Altman, the chairman, right, the CEO from OpenAI, don't quote me on that, but I think he recently said that in the next 10 years, a lot of incredible and amazing companies will be founded. A lot of incredible and amazing services will be provided, thanks to AI, of course, and then not because everything will just be automated. So after that, just it's just the AI is gonna be so it's gonna be everywhere, so powerful that it's like the only you. I want to know your views on how this future will look like, because in my mind the only solution for all of that is universal basic income, because basically what we're talking about here is like humans won't have the need to work anymore. Why? AI would do everything. So you need somehow to sustain yourself.
Yeah, I would say UBI is the solution I've also arrived at.
Yeah.
My book doesn't go into this at all because AI was moving so quickly, and I'm not an AI expert. But yeah, universal basic income is probably the solution. But also, once we see like really wide swaths of unemployment, it's going to introduce a lot of other very, very strange stuff in our reality where like you want people like ultimately like you want people to be entertained at some level. Otherwise the things that they can do collectively are quite dangerous. So yeah, I think universal basic income is important, and then deciding what we can and can't automate. I think frankly we're still very far away from automating certain things, whereas like fully driverless cars, we're saying are still a little bit of the way off, right? And at this point everyone thought we were going to have them, but progress there has actually been much slower. So in any case where human lives are at stake, or there are highly maybe fine-tuned motor functions, we probably have a few more decades.
Hmm. Do you remember this robot from Elon Musk? What was his name again? Optimus. Optimus. It's not called Optimus Prime though. I think his idea was to implement AI into those robots, so they could perform day-to-day tasks like washing the dishes and doing your laundry. I mean, in my mind, they could also drive your car, but then you can just implement the Optimus thing from. As far as I know, they're doing the opposite way. They're taking all the things they learned from the car and then applying to Optimus. Is that the case? Do you know anything about that?
So not that specifically, but I do
Mm,
have like one of my best friends works
mm,
in self-driving, and
yeah.
he's revealed quite on the machine learning side. And for me, like understanding what AI means there and how you would train it and deploy it, and then what an acceptable like error rate is just totally different. Like even if we get to the point where we have these like highly functional whatever ambulatory like robots that can like walk around and perform many functions, you then have to consider things like repairing them. And like it's just there's just so much that goes into it that I think it's a little bit, the complexity is a little bit outside of what we'd consider today. I think we're going to see a lot more in the general sense, which is to say, taking very specific cases like paving a road, laying bricks, and then eventually one day we get to building a bridge, maybe. But still, so much of that deals with heavy machinery anyway, that it's still insanely expensive just to do the machine part, never mind the actual sensors and the AI part.
Yeah, yeah. I think the way it's gonna go is like pretty much how it is today. Like we have highly sophisticated and developed countries that look like the future, and then other parts of the world that still looks like 100, 200 years ago. Like take North Korea, for example. Sorry, South Korea. There's a huge difference. South Korea, where they literally have LODs like on path walkways when you cross the street. Have you seen that? When you're crossing
Yeah.
the street, so you don't need to look up. You can keep looking at your phone because you're looking down anyways. And they have like green and red dots on the so you can cross the street so you know if it's time to go or not. So it's like cyberpunk level stuff.
Yeah.
So while this exists on the same planet Earth, we have like countries on Africa that don't have like toilets, potable water. So I think this my my vision is that this discrepancy would just grow even larger.
Yeah, I think that's true, where we
Mm.
almost see a new era of colonialism, where if we do figure out energy, which is probably the most important part of this, if we actually figure out like different aspects of whatever it is, like nuclear fission, um, then we can more or less invade countries using more productive technology, where essentially we can take other peoples out of like the stone age or just the industrial age or whatever kind of age of technological innovation they're stuck in. But I think we can't change the laws of physics. So if we're saying, hey, we have this and we have that, whatever, like getting the equipment to some, like for example, let's say we figure out a perfect AI operated lawnmower. Okay, that's great. How do you get the lawnmower to each person's house? And then how do you fuel it? Right? Those are still two huge issues where maybe we figured this out with vacuum cleaners in people's homes to some extent, but nobody's really replacing a maid with a vacuum cleaner. To the same extent, if we say, hey, we figured out how to do everything, now we need to take it to Africa or certain parts of Southeast Asia, or even extremely rural areas. We can't change the laws of physics. You still have to get things there and you have to power them once they are there. And these things, there's no cheap way to do it.
Yeah, yeah, man. I don't know. I don't like that future that we're going. I mean, like in one hand, it's extremely exciting, all the new tech. Like who knows? Maybe they even come up with flying cars. Who knows? Like there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to, right? Even like going to Mars and stuff. Like I want to be alive to see all of that. But on the other hand, it just feels like we're going towards this dystopian, Ghost in the Shell reality. It's like our one Ready Player One reality where everyone's like poor, but they have the latest tech inside of their houses, right? I was, I come from Brazil, and it's funny, man. Like you look a lot of those people who live in the favelas. They do live in the favelas. They don't have money to like paint their walls and stuff, or to have a proper ceiling and stuff. But they have the latest iPhone 17 Pro. What?
Yeah.
What's going on here? Like where are our priorities as a society, as individuals? Well, in being liked and getting the most followers on Instagram, on Facebook, like, bro, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's funny how it does come down to a lot of these things. And we found, when I was doing my research, a lot of what I was finding had to do with how long certain people had been on social media.
Oh.
So I actually found significantly better reciprocation rates when interacting with users in countries where we can assume they didn't grow up using the internet in the same way that I did. And we saw significantly higher rates of reciprocal interaction. But then some of our customers, for example, in the United States, would say, hey, all of these accounts are from Thailand. They're not going to buy my product, so I don't want them. And we're like, okay, that's fair. But it definitely there are differences in this, these like digital understanding, and understanding of how things work on the internet.
Where were most of your clients from?
It was probably about 80% the US,
And the other percentage?
mostly Europe, some South America, and Australia.
I see. Okay. It's the reason why I'm asking is because I know that India, right? People in India, they're massive social media users, and it's funny that they're not part of your clientele at all. I mean, I would assume that they have other type of services, like they have so many of those of people who provide the same or similar type of service there that they just would that be okay the case?
India is funny. I think there's a very distinct difference between the India of 2018 and the India of 2025 as
Really?
well, even in terms of wealth or tech adoption. I will say that our cheapest plan was in the realm of $35-$40 per month USD. That's actually an outrageous amount of money for many people in India, just speaking very broadly. What we see, or what I've observed more in understanding these black hat communities, is that people in India specifically are often at the very forefront of the newest black hat methods. So rather than someone saying, oh, hey, I want more followers, in India specifically, these people are very industrious and very entrepreneurial. And rather than thinking, okay, I'm going to pay this money and this is going to happen, they'll be the ones kind of innovating in these follower, unfollower algorithms and stuff, trying to create new business channels. That's where I think we see them the most. Unfortunately, as we get to people who maybe are more desperate for money, or who have more of an interest in earning money using black hat methods, you do see a big difference between like actual innovation and people who are just leeching off it because they heard that it's a way to make money. But yeah, I do have quite a bit of experience with even communicating with people from India, but almost none of our customers were from India or countries like it.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They're very tech savvy, right?
For
Isn't
sure.
the Google CEO from India? I mean, that's perfect. It makes perfectly sense.
Countries that have this culture of innovation and tech adoption, like
Yeah.
they tend to do really well. I think India is in a unique position where it's simply such an insanely large country that like the disparities in wealth and knowledge and even access to electricity are quite still quite different. But it's I think a lot of countries like India are moving in a forward manner, and we definitely see that where I've had bosses, or I've known senior leadership at companies I've worked at that were born outside of the United States. So I definitely respect that.
Mm. Tim, have you watched this movie, The Social Dilemma?
Yes.
What do you think about it?
In a way, I saw it as a very good segue into my book. So even in the introduction, I say this book is not a response to the social dilemma, which I saw that movie as being the dramatized version of the book called Zucked, Waking Up to the Facebook Catastrophe. The truth is that I wrote those sentences so long ago that I can barely remember what Zucked or the social dilemma were about. I remember the social dilemma is you have a family, the kids have problematic social media habits, and it tries to illustrate this aspect of like keeping the kids addicted with these like engineers who are like, metaphorically the algorithms behind the scenes. And so, yeah, I have pretty advanced thoughts on it and thinking like, if that's what we need to do to get the masses to understand what's going on, I'm fine with it, because that was a pretty negative, right? It was like a pretty cynical type movie. That's generally a tone that I approach in my book, but my book is written more from the insider's perspective and more from someone who is naturally just doubting and someone who also broke the rules. So I hoped that I gave a few more facets than that movie did, even though I see the relevance.
Yeah, what I remember the most about the social dilemma was like, yeah, what the first part where you said like they really cater, they have like a specific type of algorithm for each one of the users. Like they build the algorithm specifically for you. And the second thing is this exact phrase like there are only two industries that refer to their customers as users: the pharma industry and the social media industry. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And so basically, they are implying that it's a drug. And another thing that they also said in the movie is, if it's free, then you are you are the product. It's like, whoa. So I it was very how to say, it left a very bad impression on me, but like bad impression on social media. So the movie did a good work, let's say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. This is some of the most powerful information we have, which is the concept of the user, and then the concept of like your privacy versus like your value as a user is really important. I approach that a little bit in my book. I have a chapter called The Puppeteer, where I address my experience building some of these persuasive technology systems. And the reason I use the word persuasive technology is because that is acknowledged as the basis of a lot of what we see today. And I think there was a course at Stanford that was taught by one of the original people who imagined this really, in like the 50s or the 60s, like very, very old school thinking that directly applies to what we have here. But yeah, in my book, I kind of say, I don't want my book to be totally tied to this book or this movie, because I even saw Zucked as a bit of, I think I called it an amalgamation of, books with irritably similar titles. And I think Framed, the reason the name is Framed, which is like Zucked, which is like disrupted, which is like irresistible, all these conjure the same images. But ultimately, they're written more from the perspective of writers rather than people who came and did it. And I thought I could come on with the stance that I'm a good enough writer and I also did it. And that was why I'm providing value, even while admitting I'm kind of traversing the same path.
Would you so since you became aware of the dangers of social media, let's say that way, how your behavior, attitude, or your habits have changed with your phone?
It's a complicated relationship. As someone who, as someone who earned more money than he deserved in his early 20s, I have to admit that, I'm turning like 31 in a month. So to me, a lot of this is ancient history. And I've seen so much change, but also so much stay the same, in that the patterns of behavior on TikTok are pretty much the same. The way we use Instagram today is pretty much the same. When I do use social media, I'm thinking of like, I use Strava for fitness. It's a fitness app. And I'm noticing even there, a lot of these, what you'd say is like reciprocal actions are just as true there, where someone comments on my post, they expect me to comment on their post, and so on. So yeah, having, a positive experience, which then exposed me to a lot of the negative aspects from the customer perspective, did cause me to really reevaluate usage, at least on my phone. So I have basically no social media apps aside from like Strava and LinkedIn on my phone. I have no like scrolling based apps on my phone. And I think reclaiming that time is really what helped me write this book. Framed was created out of time carved out from abstaining from social media.
Okay, so you're telling me you don't use anything. You don't have like you said, you don't have the apps on your phone, but you don't even use, like, you don't even have an account, active account. somewhere?
Uh,
Or?
so yeah, so on Facebook, I have an active account, but only web browser because
I
I
see.
use it for like different types of like alumni groups and stuff, like family stuff. Like that's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
valid
yeah.
use case. But yeah, Instagram, I don't. Like I'm logged in to my old account if I have to like evaluate stuff, but I believe that account is like fully shadow banned anyway. So even if I started posting again, like if you did find it, it's a private account. The last post was like 2019. That was the last time I actually
Dude.
posted or did anything on Instagram.
Dude, I saw a post today, like an article today of from Jony Ive admitting the dark side of technology. Have you seen that? Let's share with the
No.
audience. Oh man, I need to share that. 1 second, guys. So Jony Ive, for those who do not know, is the designer, like the industrial designer of the iPhone. I mean, there was a whole team, of course, a whole group, but he was like the leader. He and Steve Jobs worked like together, developing many of the iconic products from Apple, the iPod, the MacBook, and of course, more famously known, the iPhone. Dark side of technology. Okay, let's find it. Yeah, there you go. Share screen. Jony Ive and Laureen Paul Jobs, so the late wife from Steve Jobs, admit to the dark side of tech in joint interview. So that's on 95 Mac. Jony Ive and Laureen Paul Jobs, founder and president of the Immerse Collective, and Steve Jobs have acknowledged that the iPhone played a role in the dark side of technology. Ives also said that his mysterious hardware AI device would not be happening without the support and investments of Paul Jobs. We heard more than a year ago that Jony Ive and Sam Altman. Okay, so Jony Ive and Sam Altman. That's also another thing. They joined forces recently to develop a new product, which is still mysterious. We don't know what it is, but it's definitely AI powered. So there you go. That's the exact quote. The pair admit that technology, like smartphones, has a dark side to it. Paul Jobs believes people are still animated by the idea that technology can be a force for good, but adds a caveat. We now know what is this word? Unambiguous. Oh my god, I'm not unambiguously. Tim, help me out, man. You're a native.
Unambiguously,
Unambiguously.
meaning like it's clear.
There you go. You see the power of having a native here? Native speaker. Thank you so much, man. That there are dark uses for certain types of technology, man. They admitted to that. You can only look at the studies being done on teenage girls and oh, that's also that, right? The teenager girls and on anxiety in young people and the rise of mental health needs to understand that we've gone sideways. Certainly, technology wasn't designed to have that result, but that is the sideways result. Man, it's dark. I didn't remember that about the whole teenager girls and anxiety problem.
Yeah, I approach it a little bit in my book, but I have the chapter screen grabbing where I talk about the addictive nature. I have later chapters like safeguarding and shadow bans and say hello to my new gangster friend. These
What?
are chapters where I talk about growing up with with the internet and this kind of melding it with this research that's coming out about addiction and about like the strength of emotions that we feel uniquely on social media.
What is this? Say hello to my gangster friend. What is that?
It's a very unique chapter. I'll leave it, but it has to do with cyberbullying.
Come on, tell us.
So yeah, it's hard to talk about without revealing the whole plot to it, but it's a standalone chapter where I reestablish connection with someone who I had a cyberbullying relationship with in 2007.
You're
So
bullying
I
someone?
tracked I'm not saying who was doing what, but it was a cyberbullying relationship, and I was able to track this person down, and we hashed things out, and I interviewed him for the book, and I think it was really powerful because cyberbullying is a huge issue today, and I was able to this is a person who actually lives in Norway, so yeah, I was. Really, it's a really quirky chapter, but I think it speaks to all this at length, kind of adding in a lot of the emotional aspects of it.
All right, Tim. So I guess that's it. Thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure. And do you have any final remarks? Anything else that you'd like to say?
Brew, it's been a pleasure. I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. So I just want to say thanks for having me on. Anybody out there who wants to know more about the dark side of social media from a point of view that is totally without bias, totally without something extra to sell you, check out Framed, A Villain's Perspective on Social Media. Now it's on Amazon. It's also available for wide distribution, and the audiobook is coming later this summer.
Oh, wow. Don't tell me AI is reading the book.
No, I'm reading the book.
Very good. Very good. All right, Tim. Man, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And that's about it. See you next time. Bye-bye. Yeah. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Check out now the BRUCAST store, Explore store, filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BRUCAST. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Buy now at brew-cast.com/store. Again, that's brew-cast.com/store. Link on the description below. Be a BRUCAST model and get free stuff. We'd love to see how you and your loved ones enjoy BRUCAST. Snap a picture of yourself, your family, your friends, or even your pets wearing BRUCAST merch, or watching an episode of the show, and send it to us and become part of BRUCAST. We will feature you and your pictures at the end of every episode, just like the ones you're seeing on the screen right now. You can upload your pictures at brew-cast.com/contact or tag us on social media. Alright everyone, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye bye.